Welcome to Your Voice, Women's Rights in the Workplace. My name is Deborah Orell, and I am your host. I am Director of Client Services for a women's rights in the workplace law firm. And by an extension of that, this webcast is where I will be interviewing trailblazing women who draw on their experiences, their lives, and use their voices to enhance women's rights and opportunities in the workplace. So we can cover a wide range of topics. And today, in particular, negotiation. Everything in life is about negotiation, particularly with regard to your work, your job, your career, let alone in life and how you negotiate in relationships. So today we will be speaking with career coach Kelly Joyce. Kelly has counseled executives at Fortune 500 companies and high-profile startups in complex negotiations regarding IPOs, mergers and acquisitions, crisis issues, launches, and multi-million-dollar venture capital deals. Kelly is also a certified career coach and a recovery coach who draws on her nearly 20 years of experience working as a senior executive of global technology public relations agencies to help women elevate their careers. If you'd like to learn more about Kelly's work and what she does and how she can help you, I invite you to visit thetruthatwork.com for more information there. Please join me in welcoming Kelly to today's show. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Deborah. I'm so thrilled to be here today.
It's my pleasure because this is a topic that women can never learn too much about. Yes, I understand men need the skills also, but
Absolutely.
particularly for women. So I did want to really get this. So from that, and as like coaches, we became coaches because we wanted to learn how to be better at something. So therefore, how important have been negotiation skills in your career? How has it played out?
Incredibly important, right? And it's been a steep learning curve for me, for sure. And it like you said earlier, it shows up in all aspects, right? I've been here in New York for 20 years, but I grew up in the Boston area. And both my parents, were government workers. My dad worked for the federal for the post office. My mother was a teacher for the city, and they had jobs that their salaries were posted in newspapers. Right? There was a level. Their job was a level 8 or a level 20, and what would happen is there was no negotiation. So I grew up not ever learning negotiation. It was never on the table, right? So when I got my first job in the private sector, that was foreign to begin with, right? And I just had this whole idea of gratitude. My God, thank God I got a job. I graduated in 1994. That was the middle of a huge recession. It was not easy to get a job. And so there was a lot of like, oh my God, thank God I got it. And he just took it. And what that did, my first post-graduation job, and I say this to women who are just getting out, is that there's these tremendous amount of studies out there about starting off just like with a couple $1,000s difference, a couple thousand, over decades becomes millions.
Yes.
Millions. Okay.
Yeah.
So I went through most of my PR career. There was one firm I was at for almost 11 years. I think I got promoted 5 or 6 times. And every single time I was promoted to the bottom of the pay scale. And it played out like I was, again, supposed to be very grateful, that I got into that. And I ended up, the way that I actually got my biggest leap was leaving.
Yes.
Leaving. I remember crying, leaving the firm that I loved so that I could go get more. And so that was a big I want to make sure that that's really, really clear, that it's no joke, that I know that I could probably have, I don't know, another million in my pocket.
Right.
Over what seemed like a few thousand, over time. So when that happened, and I exited my PR career and I started my coaching business, I went into business for myself. That means I was the front woman, sales, right? And I just set my own prices, right? Yeah. And, get feedback. Yeah. And hear someone say, you're expensive, or all these other types of things, right? And so that was huge. And the last piece of this is, as a career coach, I'm helping people negotiate their salaries. And I tell you, I'm coming from a place where I'm pushing people to grab the brass ring, because you really need to do that. I mean, if you're starting at a lower point, that's where you're going to stay.
Yeah. Just to share, my big negotiation lesson happened when I was probably about 27, and I had become a vice president. I was in this department. I was a vice president, and I wanted a raise. And this is going back to, I don't know, maybe 1980s, in the 80s somewhere. And I had to fly out to California to speak to my boss, and I put together this whole, why I should get this raise. And the number I wanted at the time, and I'll never forget, was $75,000.
Yeah.
Now, and I'm gearing up because I didn't want to say 100, because that would be too much.
Right.
And I definitely wanted more than I had. And I was certain 75 was the number. So I get there, we meet. He says, so what do you want? And I said, I want $75,000. And he said, is that all? And it was the best career experience, lesson I ever learned. And I never, after that, undervalued what I should be paid. As scared as I was to say some of the numbers I have said, that lesson made me realize I could have had the 100, or I could have had 150 if I had been brave enough. But I realized I so did not want to hear the no. And you see, I see that as something women, not all, obviously, but it's a pattern that I think we as women have. Do you see that in working with people?
Oh, absolutely. And just thanks for sharing that story. It's kind of like your California gold rush story, if you will.
Exactly.
Yeah. One of the things is that number that you come up is a good way to challenge yourself, is to double it. Yeah. And
if I were a coach, I probably would have.
Right. And maybe you don't ask for the 150, but it forces you, maybe you would have asked for 120 or something like that. Right. And you would have landed at 1 and there you were. But there is a stretching point to see how crazy uncomfortable you are. and it's still more than you would have gotten.
Yeah. But, fear, whatever. So what are the steps, the skills one needs to optimally negotiate?
Yeah.
Because I'm sure there are do's and don'ts.
Yeah, there's definitely do's and don'ts out there. I mean, the first part is actually envisioning what it is that you want, right? Of course, deal breakers, is that's kind of like a bottom lining tactic, where it is all these aspects. It's the financials, it's what's your base, what's your bonus, what else do they have rattling around? Do people have equity? Do people have, stocks or, some sort of other structures that are mysterious, in the company, more vacation, all these kinds of things. Just throw everything on the table, be super, super creative, right? And then also back that up with some research, right? People I can't tell you how many people wait to the night before that they have a negotiation and they're trolling the internet, looking for that when they could have been speaking with people as, months prior, know the market.
Right.
So maybe you're actually thinking below market. Market will pull you up, right? But also know that a lot of industries have you hoodwinked into that this is what we pay. And you can challenge that. There's some industries, for example, I see this with my lawyers all the time. Well, I'm a year 4, so year 4 only pays X, right? And it's a made up construct.
So totally not true. Yeah.
That the industry wants you to be completely invested in so that you're not a bad girl.
Right.
And asking.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So, kind of doing some research, knowing where you stand, and then starting to really project out, get crazy. Right.
Right.
And we're going to oscillate somewhere. We're going to live in there somewhere.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I know you advocate in job searching, so I imagine in negotiation as well, networking being very important.
Yes.
So rather than waiting until the night before, where do you do research on what this job should be paying? How do you tell other lawyers that's not true? Check, is there some place you send people to get a better sense of reality?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes there's just the straight up online things. It depends on your industry about what's available. Some people just do like a salary.com or a Glassdoor and, those kinds of things. And sometimes it does make sense to pay, for a month, to grab the data and go. I do find that industry associations are kind of terrific. Sometimes publications have an annual salary edition. I came from PR, and PR Week every March does its annual salary review by region, by title, by industry. And, it's a well-loved, well-read edition. But I do find that other people in the industry is key. People who have left your company.
Right.
Old bosses. Actually, I just saw on LinkedIn yesterday, there was a survey that talked about how generations talk differently about sharing their salary or not.
And just as another, a segue off, just in terms of women, women tend to be paid less than men.
Yes.
I just see it so often. And fortunately, when somebody who has access to payroll or HR records, the proof is right there. Unfortunately, very few people have that, but those are the people who actually can say, the last controller, the last 3 male controllers were earning this. How am I making only a third of what they're making or half of what they're making? Because sometimes gender and or age and or race do play into it. And it's, to be mindful of that. But for this, we're just talking about in general, how do you negotiate for what you're worth? Right?
Yep. Oh yeah.
So,
yep. And so those are ugly situations too. And they're very, very real.
Very real.
Even, I can't really name people, but I have worked with people who run payroll, who are in HR, who are the controllers, who are the whole thing, and they see systematic differences across the board, and they see how they themselves are making less.
Yeah. It's frightening, really. So how do people improve their negotiation skills? How do you get better at this?
Yeah, a lot of it is practice. Creating a comfort level is kind of like building up a muscle, right? So leading to a discussion about salary, does not have to be such an instance that doesn't happen very often. You could be flexing your muscle in other parts of your life that are also kind of scary to get things going, right? So that you understand, again, I kind of keep referencing to the dance, right? Kind of thing is, maybe, it's with you and your life partner, right? About something big, do we move to the country or stay in the city? Those kind of things. There's a lot of stuff in life that this is appropriate to. So I do suggest that on a global scale with yourself, that you get more into practice with this, right? And part of the skill set is right on with, what we were talking about is, if you're here and you want to get there, and where is the other person and where is the destination? And I know that sounds oversimplified, right? But there's a million pieces in there that could get you pretty satisfied, certainly in a better spot, right? And I always say the most powerful moment for an employee is before you even get there, right? So really, really stretch yourself in the offer stage,
right?
Because that's setting up baseline. And I always say, even if this is the most ridiculous, amazing offer you've ever seen in your life, you're like, I cannot think of another thing I would want to ask for, at least one more thing, right? Because it gives a signal to the HR department and to your boss that you're a negotiator.
Right.
That you didn't just take it.
Great point.
You just take it. Oh, thanks so much. See you on Monday.
Yeah, like that.
Yeah, that's enough, right? No, you got to ask for more, even if it's amazing. And then, especially, here's my message to salespeople: you have to negotiate. You must negotiate. This isn't just showing who you are. This is you demonstrating your sales savvy.
Something easier said than done, for sure.
This is an art and a science.
Yes.
It really, really is. Some people love negotiation. They love it and they just want to get in there. And some people, avoid it.
Which, just as you said that, I don't know, 20 years ago, I don't know, whenever it was, buying a car is stressful because it's a back and forth negotiation. And there was some car company, I don't remember which one it was, but they said, we make it really easy.
Saturn.
Here's the price. Okay. Here's the price. You don't have to feel uncomfortable.
Women flocked to Saturn.
Of course they did. Of course they did. Are they still in business?
They are not. Remember, they were down in Nashville. People loved working there. And then, the model just kind of collapsed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they came at a bad time anyway, but
it's true.
But I just remember that. And people who work in retail are often, a place like the Miracle Mile in Long Island, kind of thing, very upscale, fashion, high end. And the American retail people are often very put off when the tourists come in and say,
want to negotiate,
some designer thing, the price is $2,000. Well, what's the real price? They're not paying what's on the tag. And it's a big, huge, just a cultural difference.
Huge. But we don't have that muscle.
Yeah, we don't.
And it's well worth building up.
Yeah. So parents, start teaching your children how to negotiate.
Yeah. I did not have parents that did that. I had no model.
Really? Who did? I mean, I imagine Rockefeller may have done something like that. But, okay, this has been a terrific, I feel I got some good information, some good awareness skills. to practice wherever possible in negotiating.
Yes.
Always ask for way more than you expect or
Double.
want. Double. There you go.
And then work your way down.
Exactly. Anything else that I might be forgetting?
I just want to really emphasize to ask. I mean, that's the biggest problem, is not even attempting.
Right. Exactly. Well, thank you so much, Kelly. This has been great. We're going to put a link to your website underneath, but if anybody wants further information Kelly's site is thetruthatwork.com. Lots of great resources there. Thank you again, Kelly.
Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. And for more information about what we do, please go to womensrightsny.com. We have lots of information there. Until next time, thank you so much. Take care.